Have you ever felt like you were totally misunderstood, even when you thought you were being super clear?
Oh, yeah.
It's happened to all of us, right?
It's the worst.
It can be so frustrating. And today, we're going to try to figure out why those annoying disconnects happen. We're going deep, deep, deep into communication, which we all do all the time, but never really think about.
Yeah, that's so true.
So get ready, everyone. This is a deep dive into the crazy world of communication.
And one thing that's really cool about this deep dive is that it shows that communication is like way more than just talking. It's about everyone understanding each other.
Yeah.
And we use a lot of tools to do it, not just words.
Okay, so shared understanding. What does that even mean? I mean, I feel like I've had conversations where it felt like we were speaking totally different languages.
Right.
Even though we were using the same words.
Totally. So think about it this way. You're explaining something complicated to someone. You're going to use words, maybe draw a picture, use your hands, whatever helps them get it, right?
Right.
It's the same with communication, really. We're always trying to get our meaning across. We use a bunch of different tools, and sometimes those tools don't work the way we want them to.
So it's not just about the words themselves, but making sure we all know what those words mean.
You got it. And that's where it gets super interesting, because shared understanding totally depends on context. Like there's this story from the research we're looking at. It happens in this place called the Pastaza region. A visitor is having dinner with their host, and they keep saying, "I'm stuffed," or "I couldn't eat another bite." Like you do.
Yeah, you don't want them to think you didn't like the food.
Right. But get this, in this culture, saying you're full means you weren't given enough food.
What?
Seriously. And as you can imagine, that can cause some problems.
Wow, so the same phrase, which you think is polite, can be like an insult in another place? That's wild. That
Yeah.
really shows how important context is. It's not just about what the words mean in the dictionary.
Exactly. And that brings us to something else really important from the research codes.
Okay, codes. What are those?
So imagine like a secret language that groups of people make up.
Uh-huh.
These codes can be all sorts of things, slang, jargon, even those unspoken social rules.
Okay.
And they're a huge part of how we talk to each other.
So, if I went to a party where everyone's using slang I'm going to feel like an outsider.
Totally. That feeling of being out of the loop shows how powerful codes can be. They can
Yeah.
make you feel like you belong or like you're totally lost.
It's like everyone's speaking English, but with a crazy accent you can't understand.
That's a great way to put it. And, just being aware of those different codes can really help you communicate better. It's about realizing that what words mean to us depends on our experiences, our culture, and who we hang out with.
My mind is blown. I never realized how much I just assume about communication. It seems so simple, but clearly there's a lot more going on.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And speaking of, layers, we have to talk about verbal versus nonverbal communication.
Right. I'll admit I forget about nonverbal cues all the time.
It happens. We all focus on the words. But, your face, your tone of voice, even how you stand, they can totally change how people see your message.
Like when you say, "That's interesting," but your face says you actually hate
Yes,
it.
exactly. Or when someone's all, "I'm fine," but their tone is like, "Leave me alone."
I'm fine. I hate that.
It's classic. But it's really interesting.
What?
We do most of that stuff without thinking. We don't realize how much we're saying with our bodies.
Oh my gosh, yes. I don't even realize I'm giving off a vibe until someone points it out. It's like we're speaking this whole other language, but we don't even know it.
Totally. And that adds a whole other level of complexity to communication. Even when you think you're being clear as day, your body language could be saying something totally different.
Whoa. The thing this makes you wonder how much we misunderstand each other all the time.
All the time. It's kind of crazy. It happens more than you think.
Yeah.
When you just know someone's upset, even if they say they're not.
Oh, yeah. Or when you feel like someone's lying, even if their words sound okay.
Exactly. It's like our bodies give us away.
Totally.
And being aware of that is so important. It can help you in every part of your life. You can pick up on those little things people do,
It's like having a superpower. You can see what people really mean.
Kinda.
Yeah.
And it all goes back to that shared understanding thing. The more we know about what affects communication, the better we get at connecting with people.
This has been amazing. I feel like I understand communication so much better now. It's way more than just talking, huh?
It really is. It's like this mix of words, body language, culture, and experiences. It's a lot.
And I guess the main takeaway is that being a good communicator isn't just about speaking clearly. It's about paying attention and actually caring about what other people mean. It's a two-way street.
Yeah, you can't just talk at people. and expects them to get it. Communication takes effort from everyone involved.
Okay, so we talked about codes earlier.
Yeah.
Can we talk about those a little more? Like how they work in different places?
Sure. Let's say you're at work, right? You've got your marketing people, your engineers, your finance folks, everyone.
Right.
Each group has their own way of talking, like their own special language. So if a marketing person tries to explain something to an engineer, they might not get it at all.
It's like they're from different countries.
Totally. And that's why it's important to think about who you're talking to. You got to adjust how you communicate, you know?
That makes sense. What about social situations? How do codes work there?
Well, think about humor, for example. Different groups find different things funny. What's hilarious to one group might be totally offensive to another.
Oh my gosh, that reminds me of this time I told a joke to some friends, and it was like a total flop.
Oof.
Like they just did not get it at all. Super awkward.
We've all been there. It just shows you that humor has its own codes, too, depending on who you're with.
So how can we learn these different codes? How can we avoid those awkward moments?
Just pay attention. Notice the words people use, how they act, how they talk to each other. It's like being a detective trying to figure out their secret code.
And I guess it also means being willing to, like, learn new codes
Yeah,
to change how we communicate.
absolutely. The more we see how other people communicate, the better we get at bridging those gaps.
This is really eye-opening. I'm seeing communication in a whole new way now.
That's great.
Yeah.
And as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to leave you with something to think about. Think about the groups you're part of, your family, your friends, people you work with.
Okay.
What are some of those unspoken codes you use? How do they affect how you talk to each other? Think about it.
Wow. Yeah. It makes you realize how much we rely on those unspoken rules every day. It's kind of crazy.
It is. And as you think about those codes, ask yourself how they might be helping or hurting your communication. It's a good way to learn more about yourself and how you communicate.
That's awesome. It's like we're diving deep into our own communication habits.
Exactly. And hopefully that will help you understand yourself and the people around you a lot better.
It's crazy how those codes can just sneak up on you. You don't even realize they're there until you're like in a totally different situation.
Yeah, like you're talking and suddenly things get weird.
Exactly.
The thing is, they're often like unconscious. You pick them up just by living your life. You don't even know you're doing it.
So we're all sending these secret messages without realizing it.
Pretty much. And that's why we misunderstand each other so much. We think we're being clear, but our message can totally get lost if the other person is using a different code.
So how do we like avoid that? Is there anything we can do to be more aware of these different codes?
Totally. One of the best things is active listening.
Okay.
It's not just about hearing the words.
Right.
It's also about paying attention to their face, their tone, how they're standing. Like you're trying to understand what's behind the words.
So it's like being a detective,
Mm.
trying to find all the clues.
Exactly. And another good thing is to just ask questions. If you're not sure what someone means, just ask.
Makes sense.
It's way better than pretending you get it and then messing things up later.
Oh my gosh, yes. It's so tempting to just nod along, but asking questions can save you so much trouble.
For sure. And it also shows the other person that you actually care about what they're saying.
This has been so insightful. I feel like I'm finally starting to understand how communication really works.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
It's like peeling back the layers of an onion.
Uh-huh.
You keep finding more and more.
The more you learn, the more you realize how much you don't know.
Yeah.
It's a never-ending process.
So for our listeners who are just starting to think about this stuff, what are the main things they should remember?
Well, the biggest thing is communication is not just about words. It's about understanding each other. It's about context and body language and those codes we talked about.
And don't forget to listen and ask questions.
Yes. Those are the keys to good communication.
Well, I think that's about it for our deep dive into communication. It's been a wild ride.
It has. Thanks for having me.
And to everyone listening, we hope you learned something new and that you'll think about communication a little differently next time you're talking to someone. See you next time.